Hey everyone, this is Matt Gunlock from the 3GIQ podcast. Today we're just going to do a very different episode. This isn't going to be your typical gun episode where we're talking about three gun or matches or anything like that. This is going to be something deeply personal to me and to a lot of the Marines that I served with, and it's about a book that is coming out very soon called Bastards and Brothers. It's been a long time in the making, and I have the author of that book right here, Ajax Trueblood. Ajax, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. This is great, Matt. I really appreciate this, and it's really great to see you face to face, essentially here. So, yeah, uh, I've written this book, Bastards and Brothers, about that deployment, which came at a pivotal time and a pivotal place. Let me just introduce myself a little bit because I'm kind of an odd duck. Uh, I'm an Air Force guy. And a lot of people ask me, why did you write about Marines? And let's see, my full name actually is, and it's on the cover of the book, is Roger. Uh, Ajax is a call sign. So Roger Ajax Trueblood is what's on the book. And long, even in the Air Force, even non-flyers get call signs sometimes. So I'm an intelligence guy. Um, as they say in the Air Force, I'm an intelligence puke. So I ended up with that call sign quite a while back. And Roger never works in the military, Roger this, Roger that. So I've been going by Ajax for many years. So you're probably going to ask why I wrote the book. And we can get into that, but just briefly, I was deployed in 2007. I had been in and out of Iraq in 2005. In 2007, I was attached to the army south of Baghdad and saw the effects. Everything was changing, and saw the effects of what was then known as the Great Awakening. So, kind of tracked that back, kind of my own intellectual curiosity, tracked it back to Anbar and along the Western Euphrates River Valley, in doing my own research. And it took a long time to figure this all out, but discovered the story of 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines, 3-2, up in Al-Qaim, the very far western edge of the battle space, and decided I needed to write a book. So a lot of stuff in between there, but
No, I appreciate that, and just so the listeners know, I did kind of get an advanced copy from Ajax to kind of review, because we're going to be doing an oncoming episode where Frank and I are talking to Ajax again, and we're going to have Captain Chris Aiva on as well. Um, and it's going to be kind of a reunion for me and Chris, just because I was there in 2005 with Chris. Chris was my company commander at the time, and it's when I say it's very emotional, it's very emotional. So before I go any further, I'm going to say there's some really big parallels here that I draw from other history books or other autobiographies that I've read. Beyond Band of Brothers, the story of Major Dick Winters whenever he was, in Europe with his guys, Easy Company, and then even Phase Line Green, and some of the things that I hope come from this is, we in the military we do a lot of tactical decision games, and we draw upon stuff from World War II. We draw upon stuff from Vietnam, and we even do stuff from the most current conflict. And I think there's some really good aspects of what we did in Iraq in 2005 can be drawn upon. And another aspect of this book is it's so deeply personal just because of the amount of interviews that you did conduct, Ajax, that it has that personal touch, and you get the tactical perspective on the ground, but then you cover a lot of the stuff that we weren't even aware of there, which was the operational side and the strategic side. Like that stuff didn't mean anything to us. To us, everything that we did on the ground and to the guys on the left and right, that's what really mattered to us. So, the stories are very deeply personal. And you did a lot of homework and did a lot of really good work and vetting and doing that.
Yeah, let me kind of explain a little bit kind of background of why the 3-2 and why Al-Qaim in 2005. The war starts in 2003 with the invasion, but basically the Western province, Anbar, is essentially ignored at first. So the insurgency really took root out there. That's kind of the center of the Sunni triangle and the Sunni stronghold. So the insurgency by 2004 was extremely strong and growing out in the far west in Anbar. They called it the Wild West, right? Fallujah happens in late 2004, November, as a matter of fact, right now, the anniversary. And that kind of even then kind of diverts attention from even further west. And by the time you guys arrive in February of 2005, it's really kind of out of control. And so you arrived at the what I call the dark days, when it just seemed like everything was going off the rails, and many of our national leaders and the military leaders that were assuming that things were lost. So the battalion shows up and starts this work, and I won't go into too much detail about it, but was able to have enough success, even being completely unrecognized. There were some major operations that received some press, but basically just doing your jobs out in a very, very dangerous place, that started to turn the tide in some very somewhat intangible, but also very tangible ways. And by the end of your deployment in September of 2005, there were signs of a turnaround. You guys didn't really get to appreciate that. As you left the country, it still seemed like it was all out of control, right? But that's part of what attracted me to the subject, was to write about the early days in the war, 2005, when, before the Great Awakening, before Anbar started to turn around, and what the groundwork that was laid. And that's what this covers, but also, like you mentioned, in some very personal stories. So that's what's kind of unique about this book, is it combines the operational level, higher view, strategic level view, if you will, with these very tactical, very personal stories. Over 200 interviews at least. I lost count a long time ago. Many stories in the book about close calls, dramatic, suicide bombers, house to house, face-to-face shots. And there's some really kind of tense moments in there that came from you guys. And early on, you and I spoke. Almost all my interviews were done by phone, but you and I spoke, and you were one of the Marines. Chris Aiva is another one that showed me the feelings underneath the facts. And I changed the direction of the book in that way. And, at first it was going to be pretty straightforward. Here's what happened. Here's who did what. Here's the timeline. But after talking with young Marines, we're young back then. I see the gray in your beard there.
Yeah.
But it just, there's a lot of emotion behind it, and some very, very personal stories that I'm privileged. That's one thing I want to come across, is that I have been privileged and honored to talk to you guys, and to listen to your stories, and then capture them, and feed them back and go, is this what you meant? So there's been a lot of back and forth interplay with a lot of different Marines.
And I'll say, I think you and I were back and forth throughout a big part of 2017. And, I say 2017 specifically because this has been a long time in the works, between all the vetting, not just with all the interviews that you had to do. You mentioned you did over 200 interviews, but also the vetting, doing data analytics, talking to Chris last night, the data analytics that went in, to, seeing what really comes out, what words really come up, and then even going through the Pentagon, which from what you told me was one of the longest processes
Good
to get
grief.
it
Yeah,
cleared.
I don't want to get into that too much because I would just get sarcastic about it. But yeah, it took me a lot longer than I thought I was going to do. Now, some of that was my own inexperience. Um, this is the first book I've written, and it's been a long haul. Originally, I thought, oh yeah, I should be able to knock this out in a year. Well, not exactly, but no, a big part of that was this turn of no, I need to understand the deep waters that still run in the hearts of these Marines. And not being a Marine myself, that's a little daunting. So it took a lot of kind of, heart to heart, mind melding, whatever, that kind of helped me tell your story. And,
And
it's daunting for me to say that I'm telling your story.
no, and I think with everything that you did and from everything that I've read thus far, the Marines are going to appreciate it. It is something that is so deeply emotional. And, I'll go ahead and put say this, there's a part in the book where it's all about the healing process. And I think this is something that's part of the healing process for those Marines. And I'm only speaking for myself there, but I would like to think the other Marines would find this as a healing process. Maybe some closure comes out of it,
Yeah.
knowing that what they did have a large effect on what came. Because like you said before, we left and we didn't know what happened after that. We didn't know the effect that we necessarily did have. We were only focusing on what we did on the ground. So I do want to say thank you for the large effort that you did put in. Before we make this too long, because like I said, this is a promo video for what's to come. Where can everybody pick it up, and when will it be available?
So the website that goes along with it is bastardsandbrothers.com.
Okay.
And on 10 November is Marine Corps birthday, is the release date. Now, being new to the publishing world, I'm not 100% sure what release date means, but that's when the link will be there to do pre-orders. It takes time to get the book printed and sent out. And by the way, the first tranche of orders that come in, I'm going to sign them. So that means they got to come to me. I live in Southern Utah, and then I'll sign them and it'll be sent out. So it'll take a little while longer. I wish it were faster. But we are there on 10 November. That's the release date, and the pre-orders begin. Now, I've had a lot of folks already contact me. So I've got names and a list of people that want it'll be out in paperback and hardcover to start with. Later on, it'll be an ebook. But bastardsandbrothers.com is the place to go. And there's also a bunch of other information on there as well.
Yeah, I was reading through that. It has like that's a really cool thing about it. It has like a lot of pictures, it has maps, like you can basically battle track and put things together based off of all the information that you have there. So thank you again. Again, everybody, 10 November, bastardsandbrothers.com. Get yourselves a copy. You won't be disappointed. Thanks and
Yeah.
have a great one.
Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.